So the fall 2020 season for anime is here, and for the most part, it's pretty aight. You got the throwback spooky vibes for the season, Little Boys Jumping in Short Shorts Part 4, and the next big webtoon series in line to be butchered. But of all the series this season, one you should absolutely not miss out on is Jujutsu Kaisen. So let's skip the bull and get right to it. Why should you care about Jujutsu Kaisen? Because it fucking slaps. When I first read the manga and started watching the anime, I was actually surprised to see how much this series lived up to the hype. Jujutsu Kaisen has this energetic and fresh approach to the shonen formula that we've all grown accustomed to seeing, but it manages to take this approach while still having a charm of its own. Jujutsu Kaisen takes place in a world much like ours, but instead here, all the negative emotions that people feel like embarrassment, regret, and hatred all become the source of what are known as curses. Curses are these demonic, monstrous looking creatures that look like they could have been on Goosebumps back in the day if the writers took just a bit more acid. Meet the protagonist Yuji Itadori, who aside from being strong and fast as shit, is your average high school student with a commendable taste in women. After coming into contact with a cursed object known as Sukina's finger, he then becomes a part of the crazy world of Jujutsu sorcery. And I can't emphasize enough just how crazy Jujutsu sorcery is. The negative emotions that humans feel can be outputted into what's known as cursed energy. People who manipulate and use this cursed energy are what's known as Jujutsu sorcerers. And these sorcerers have some pretty nutty abilities. You got people manipulating their blood and shooting it at the speed of sound, a character that can make you go night night just by telling you a word, a boy throwing up gang signs to summon the Shikigami dogs, and then the main character whose main power is beating the shit out of people. This off-the-wall power system is complemented by the quirky cast of characters, like a fighting robot that shoots laser beams out of its mouth, and a talking panda that for some reason is doing parkour in the opening. But I can't just skip over the character that caught my attention the most: Conservative Old Grandpa. The characters in this show all had these quirks and traits that make them stick out from each other, and when they come together and interact, you get some entertaining and comical moments. But Jujutsu Kaisen really caught my attention with how spontaneous it can be. While reading, I was not ready for how wild the writing gets. Like when out of nowhere, Conservative Old Grandpa asks for his students to kill one of their peers. And no one even bats an eye to this shit. Because damn it, when Conservative Old Grandpa wants somebody dead, that motherfucker needs to go. As the story progresses, the off-kilter aspects of the writing get taken up a notch. I was not expecting to see people's heads get popped, chopped, and dropped the way they were. There's a good amount of twists within this series, and a noticeable amount of detail is put into the writing. An example of this can be seen when Gojo, hold on, I think I mispronounced his name. An example of this is when Gojo fights one of the cursed spirits. You see him zooming and jumping all over the place, just straight bugging. And as you see all this happening, you just wonder, why is this man flexing on Heat Blast from Ben 10 like this? But with this fight, the creator is doing more than just showing us that Gojo is a total badass. Not only are we getting taught more about this world's power system, but we're also witnessing the bar being set in place for future fights in the series. It does this by showing us the character that's labeled as the strongest, finding and explaining his broken ass abilities pretty early into the series. As a result of this, common problems with his shonen such as power creep won't be too much of a problem as the show progresses. But moving on to how this show looks, the presentation overall is on point. Although the anime's art style isn't as dynamic as the manga's, it's still pretty stylish. And as you would expect from Studio Mappa, the animation is clean. I was surprised to see how well one of the earlier fights in the series got adapted, so I can only imagine how they'll adapt the bigger and better fights from the manga. Overall, Jujutsu Kaisen shows a lot of promise, and the art that's happening currently in the manga is pretty hype. If the anime gets the treatment it deserves, and if the manga keeps going at the rate it's on now, this series could potentially blow up and compete with some of the big names in modern shonen. But that's all for this video. I will be taking a deeper look into Jujutsu Kaisen once this season fully wraps up. So until that video drops, don't forget to subscribe and watch some videos until then. Don't forget to like and to comment. And I'm about to, ayy.